Let's get to Tesla. Elon Musk at it again, tweeting. It's about the diver who helped rescue those boys from the cave in Thailand, who called, Musk called him a pedo, for heaven's sake. Well, he's gone back to it. You don't think it's strange he, the diver, hasn't sued me? He was offered free legal services. He's dipping his toe right back into the controversy that he raised about the boys in the Thai cabin. This is extraordinary. We have guests on this. Our next guest blew the whistle on several of Tesla's factory practices. Karl Hansen, he's the Tesla whistleblower, and his attorney, Stuart Meissner. Do you think that Musk's state of mind is the right state of mind to be running a giant car company? What do you say?
Stuart, I think in my interaction with Mr. Musk, his behavior is erratic, irrational. I think there's a consistent reactionary mode that permeates down through the organization, and there's no proactive operational commitments that we're seeing.
But you're the guy who's saying that at the Gigafactory in Nevada, that's where you used to work, I believe, correct?
Yes, sir.
They spied on you? And are you also saying that drugs were dealt inside the factory?
I'm saying that in the beginning of June, I was provided with this document right here from the supervisor, Sean Guthrow, of Tesla's Internal Investigations Department, outlining that the DEA task force members assigned to Story County Sheriff's Department provided him with this, indicating that they had validated information that cartel, a member of a Mexican cartel, was in fact trafficking in potential large quantities of methamphetamine and cocaine.
On the factory floor?
In this document, it indicates that there were 2 sales that were conducted on 5/11 and 5/13 of 2018 in the factory.
Carl, why don't you tell Stuart, when you wanted to look at the videos of those sales, there's video cameras on the floor all over the place in Tesla, what happened?
Well, although it was difficult to pinpoint the specific location, when I inquired about the video footage that was supposed to be retained for 30 days, I was told that we have no footage beyond that. Our servers are overloaded with cameras, and we're losing footage.
Okay. Now, Stuart, you're the lawyer for Mr. Hansen here.
Yes.
What's the status? You have a lawsuit against Tesla.
No.
What do you got?
I represent Mr. Hansen before the SEC. He filed an SEC whistleblower complaint, a tip, as did my other client, Mr. Tripp, who was also a former Tesla employee. I have to say, overall, the allegations that are raised between the two, raised from my experience as a former prosecutor in Manhattan DA's office, Attorney General's office, New York State, the prospect of violation of federal wiretapping laws, the false report of a terrorist incident involving Mr. Tripp, which is a felony in Nevada, and obstruction of justice, all of which are very serious crimes, which, if they emanated from the top, the CEO, are much more serious than any SEC investigation with regard to any CEO of any public company.
Well, as an observer of the scene, and you are an observer of the Tesla scene, do you think that Elon Musk is in the right state of mind, if I can put it like that, to be running Tesla, the car company?
I think Mr. Musk, from my perspective, has a lot of assets. I think he's has a great visionary, but I do think at the same time he's very erratic and is knee-jerk. And when you have that as the head of a public company, and what appears to be they are willing to do anything and everything, that is pretty scary.
Let me wrap this up with the question, Karl.
Yes,
what
sir.
is the status of your complaint as of now, your whistleblower complaint? What's the status?
At this point, we have not heard anything back from the SEC.
Okay.
That's currently pending, my understanding from Mr. Meissner. With respect to investigations, with respect to Tesla's statement, I'd like to clarify that Tesla, in fact, indicated that I somehow initiated these investigations on my own arbitrarily. That in fact, is totally fabricated and not true.
So you've laid the complaint, no response at this point.
Well, let me just say that this one is that Mr. Hansen submitted the complaint to the SEC. We're waiting for a response, not just from the SEC, but I think the issues that I just laid out raise issues regarding other law enforcement.
Yep.
And right now, none have started an investigation. I'm surprised at that. I expect they would. based on my experience, and there seems to be some issues with the local law enforcement there of Story County Sheriff being attached to or dropping the ball with regard to Tesla. So I would expect that there will be investigations.
Stuart Meissner, lawyer, Karl Hansen, whistleblower, thanks for joining us. I do now want to read, it's a lengthy statement we got from Tesla. We asked for it, and here's what they are saying. And I'll read it in full now. Mr. Hansen's allegations were taken very seriously when he brought them forward. Some of his claims are outright false. Others could not be corroborated. So we suggested additional investigative steps to try and validate the information he had received secondhand from a single anonymous source. Because we wanted to be sure we got this right, we made numerous attempts to engage further with Mr. Hansen to understand more about what he was claiming and the work that he did in reaching his conclusions. He rejected each of those attempts and to date has refused to speak with the company further.
Stuart, I just want to say, regarding that response, everything, as Mr. Hansen just said, that he investigated was at the behest of Tesla. His supervisor asked him to investigate. So these are not his allegations, number one. Number two, their reaching out was after he was dismissed by Tesla and represented by counsel. So for 2 months, they had his reports. They had all the information. They could follow up. They have all the information now. They can look into whatever they want. But again, they are the ones who instigated these investigations, not Mr. Hansen.
I think we've got a fight on our hands, but Stuart and Karl, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed.